Okay. So we're now going to start Samaik and Pratika.
દ્રવ્ય થકી સાવજ જોગ સેવાના પચખાણ ક્ષેત્ર થકી આખા લોક પ્રમાણે કાળ થકી બેગડી ઉપરાંત ન પાડવું અને પડાવવું ત્યાં સુધી ભાવ થકી છ કોટી પચખાણ કરેમી બંતે સામાયમ સાવજમ જોગમ પચખામી જાઓ નિયમમ પંચુવા સામી દુવ્યમ તિવીણમ ન કરેમી ન કાર્વેમી મનસા વૈસા કાયસ તસ બંતે બડી કમામી નિંદામી કર્યામી અપાણમ ભોસિરામી દિવસ સંબંધી જ્ઞાન દર્શન ચારિત્ર અને તપને વિશે જે અતિચાર લાગ્યા હોય તે આલવું છું આ ગમે તેવી એ પન્નતે તમ જ્યાં સુતા ગમે અથા ગમે તદુ ભયા ગમે એવા શ્રી જ્ઞાનને વિશે જે અતિચાર લાગ્યા હોય તે આલવું છું જમવાઈદમ વચામેલમ હિન કુકરમ અજ કુકરમ પરિણમ વિનહિનમ યોગિનમ કૌશિનમ સુટુદિનમ તૂટુ પડી છે એમ કાલે કહો સજાઓ કાલે ન કહો સજાઓ સજાય સજાયમ સજાય ન સજાયમ એમ ભણતા ગણતા ચિંતાવતા चौदह प्रकारे कोई पाप दोष लागे हो तो अनंत अनंत भगवान अपनी शक्ति तस्मिच्छामि दुक्कडम.
We should all say Tasmichami Dukkadam together. So the first verse is Nanatija. So these are the faults that you might have obtained in obtaining spiritual knowledge. If you're following in the book, it's lesson 4. So it says, during the day, when studying the scriptures of the 3 types, which are the 32 agams, their translated meanings or a combination of the 2, I may have recited these scriptures in an incorrect order. I might have recited them incorrectly. I might have used lesser words than should have been recited. I have used more words than should have been recited. I have omitted verses. I have been disrespectful when reciting them. I have reached an unsteady mind, speech, or body. I have recited them without correct pronunciation. I've given knowledge to somebody who is unworthy. I have disrespectfully or arrogantly gained knowledge. I have recited these scriptures at an improper time, or I have not recited them at a proper time. I have recited them in an improper place, or I have not recited them in a proper place. If I have sinned in any such way, then today, Tasmichami Dukkadam.
દંસણ સમક્તિ પરમત સંતવો વાસુદિટ પરમત સેવણ વાવી વાવન કુદંસણ વચના સમત સદ્રુહણા એવા સમક્તિના સમવાસેણમ સમત સ્પંચયારા પેયાલા જાણી હવ્યાને સમર્યવ્યા તમ જાતે આલો શંકા કંખા વિધિ ગચ્છા પરપાસન પ્રશંસા પરપાસન સંતવો એમ સમક્તિ રૂપ રત્નને વિશે મિથ્યાત્વ રૂપ મેળ રજ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો અર્યંત અનંત સિદ્ધ ભગવાન આપની સાક્ષી તસ્મિ દિશામિ દુક્કડમ.
So the next lesson, number 5, is about darshana atichar, or faults with your faith. True faith towards the true God, the true religion, and the true Guru is of the highest truth. And to realize this on one's own, to realize it with a Guru, this highest truth, and to serve and associate it with it. If after having learnt it, you have deserted the religion, if you have abandoned the path and followed the path of people who are hypocrites and are considered acts of sin in religion, you have kept faith in those, you have not kept faith in those who follow the true religion or the true faith. You haven't become a devotee or a follower of saints or sadhus and of the true faith. In this, if you have doubted the true faith, if you have desired the opinion of hypocrites, if you have doubted the benefits of holy deeds, if you have appreciated the opinion of those that are hypocrites, and you have associated with such hypocrites, then today, if you have committed any of these sins, Tasmichami Dukkadam.
પહેલું અણુવ્રત તુલાઓ પાણાઈ વાયો વેરમણ ત્રસ્ય વેન્દ્ર તેન્દ્ર ચૌરિન્દ્ર પંચેન્દ્ર જીવ જાણી પ્રીચી સ્વસંબંધી શરીર માયેલા પીડાકારી સઅપરાધી વિગ્લેન્દ્રિય વિના આકુટી હણવા નિમિત્તે હણવાના પચખાણ તથા સૂક્ષ્મ એકેન્દ્રિય પણ હણવાના પચખાણ જાઓ જીવાય દુવ્યમ તિવીણમ ન કરેમી ન કાર્વેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા પહેલા તુલ પ્રાણદીપાત વેરમણમ રત્ન પંચયારા પ્યાલા જાણી હવ્યા ન સમારી હવ્યા તમ જાતે આલો બંદે વહે છ વિચય અહીં વારે પતપાણ ગુચે એવા પહેલા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિન દિશામિ દુક્કડમ.
So now we move to conduct. and the 12 anuvrats, or the 12 small vows that we should all use as a guide for our life, even though we may not have taken the vows formally. So the first vow is the vow of ahimsa, or the vow of gross violence towards all types of life. I refrain from sinning against lives that move around. These are souls with two senses, namely touch and taste, like worms, shells, and others. Souls with three senses, touch, taste, and smell, like ants or lice or others. Souls with four senses, namely touch, taste, smell, and vision, like flies and bees. Souls with all five senses, namely touch, taste, smell, vision, and hearing, like horses or people or cattle or others. These living beings, knowingly and through identification, either your own or somebody else's, you will not inflict pain to their body or offend them in any way. These lives, either deliberately or intentionally, you will not kill them, and you vow not to kill them, even not to kill the smallest organisms as long as you live, either by yourself or asking somebody else to do that through mind, speech, or body. If you have caused violence towards life, then you vow to refrain from the following. You will not tie any of these lives with strong cords or ropes. You will not attack them with sticks. You will not pierce them or pierce their limbs. You will not overladen them with weight. You will not deprive them of food and water with an evil intention. If today you have committed any of these sins, then tasmit Dukram. When you listen to this, please bear in mind this was written a very long time ago, but you should pick up the philosophy and the general meaning of what it's trying to tell you in defining these principles. Okay.
બીજું અનુવ્રત લાઉ મુસાવાયો વેરમણમ કન્નાલિક ગોવાલિક ભોમાલિક થાપણ મોસો મોટકી કુડી શાક ઇત્યાદિક મોટું ચૂટું બોલવાના પચકાન ચાવ જીવાય દુવ્યમ તિવેણમ કન કરેમીના કાર્વેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા બીજા થોડ મુસાવાદ વેરમણમ રત્ન પંચયાર જાણી હવે ન સમારી હવે તમ જાતે આલોમ સસાબ કકાણે રસાબ કકાણે સફરતાર મંતે બે મોસો વયસે કુડલે કરાણે એવા બીજા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિત ક્ષામ હિંદુપ્રામ.
The second small vow, or anuvrat, is from saying gross lies. You refrain from lies pertaining to a bride-to-be, pertaining to animals like cows or buffaloes, lies regarding land, lies with the intention of not returning somebody's belongings, lies by being a false witness for a major event, and other such gross lies. You vow not to speak as long as you live, either by yourself or asking somebody else to do this, either mentally, verbally, or physically. You vow not to say shocking or alarming speech, to reveal anybody's confidentiality, to reveal the secrets of one's own husband, wife, or family, to preach things that you know are false, to write something that you know is false. If today you have committed any of these sins, then tasmit chami.
ત્રીજું અણુવ્રત લાવો અતિના દાણાઓ વેરમણમ ખાતર ખણી ગાંઠડી ચોડી તાડુ પર કુચે કરી પડી વસ્તુ તણ્યાથી જાણી ઇત્યાદિક મોટું અદત્તા દાન લેવાના પચકાણ સગા સંબંધી તથા વ્યાપાર સંબંધી નરપમી વસ્તુ ઉપરાંત અદત્તા દાન લેવાના પચકાણ જાવ જીવાય દુવ્યમ તેવી એણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા ત્રીજા થુલ અદત્તા દાન વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી હવ્યા ન સમારી હવ્યા તમ જાતે આલોમ તેના હળે તક્કર પહોગે વિરુદ્ધ રચાઈ કમે કુળતોલે કુડમાણી તપડી રૂવક વહારે એવા ત્રીજા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિત ક્ષામી દુક્રમ.
So the third vow is that of theft. You refrain from stealing things like buried treasure, opening somebody's packages, opening somebody's lock with the second key, knowingly taking somebody's belonging. In addition to that, you vow not to take somebody's valuable belongings without permission. apart from things that are insignificant and of little value, you vow not to take without permission as long as you live, either by yourself or through somebody else, through mind, speech, or body. You vow not to steal or get stolen by taking stolen goods, by helping a thief, by doing anything against the laws of the country, by using wrong weights or measures, or by giving inferior goods after showing superior goods. If today you have done any such sin, then tasmichami.
ચોથું અણુવ્રત તુલાવ મેહુણાવ વેરમણમ સકર્તાર સંતોષે અવશેષ મેહુણવીના પચખાણ અને જે સ્ત્રી પુરુષને મૂળ થકી કાય કરી મેહુણ સેવાના પચખાણ હોય તેને દેવતા મનુષ્ય તિર્યન સંબંધી મેહુણ સેવાના પચખાણ જાઓ જીવાય દેવતા સંબંધી તું બી આમ તીવી એણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી માણસા વૈસા કાયસા મનુષ્ય તિર્યન સંબંધી એકવી એણમ ન કરેમી કાયસા એવા ચોથા તુલ મેહુણ વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી હવે ન સમારી હવે તમ જાતે આલોમ ઇતરીય પરિગ્યા ગમણે અપરિગ્યા ગમણે અનંકીડા પર વિવાહ કરણે કામ ભોગે સુતીવા બિલાસા એવા ચોથા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિ ચામી.
The fourth anuvrat is of gross sensuality or passion. Apart from with one's own husband or wife, with whom you will be content, you refrain from having passion with anybody other than him or her. Sensual passions or pleasures are forbidden as long as you live with any other person, either by yourself or asking others to do it in mind, speech, or body. You vow to give up having marital sex or relationships when a wife is of immature age, having premarital relations, having perverse relations, taking an unconcerned interest in getting others married, in being obsessive towards sensualism. If you have today done any such sin, then tasmichami.
પાંચમું અણવ્રત તુલાવ પરિઘાવ વેરમણમ ખેતવતુનું યથા પરિમાણ હિરણ સુવર્ણનું યથા પરિમાણ ધન ધાન્યનું યથા પરિમાણ દુપત ચૌપદનું યથા પરિમાણ કુવ્યનું યથા પરિમાણ કીધું છે તે ઉપરાંત પોતાનો પરિગ્રહ કરી રાખવાના પચખાણ જાઓ જીવાય એક વિહમથી વિહમ ન કરેમી મનસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા પાંચમા તુલ પરિગ્રહ પરિમાણ વેરમણ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી હવે ન સમારી હવે તમ જાતે આલો ખેતવતુ પમણાઈકમે હિરણ સુવર્ણ પમણાઈકમે ધનધાન્ય પમણાઈકમે દુપત ચૌપત પમણાઈકમે કુવ્ય પમણાઈકમે એવા પાંચમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી છે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિ ચામી.
The fifth vow is to resist from having surplus material belongings, like open land, fields or farms, enclosed spaces like houses and shops, whatever limit is set for gold and silver, whatever limit is set for cash and wealth, grains or food provisions, two-legged or four-legged animals, whatever limit you set for goods for the house. Within such limits, you are forbidden to accumulate wealth over and above them, as long as you live, either by yourself or asking others to do, through mind, speech, and body. You will not cross the limits of open land or enclosed space, cross the limits of silver and gold. You vow not to cross the limits of cash or other wealth, cross the limits of owning animals, household products, or other goods. If you have done any such sin today, then tasmichami.
છઠ્ઠું દિશી વ્રત ઉઠ દિશીનું યથા પરિમાણ અધો દિશીનું યથા પરિમાણ તિર્ય દિશીનું યથા પરિમાણ એ યથા પરિમાણ કીધું છે તે ઉપરાંત સ ઈચ્છાએ કાયાએ જઈને પાંચ આશો સેવાના પચખાણ જાઓ જીવાએ તું વિહમ તિવિયણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મનસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા છઠ્ઠા દિશી વેરમણ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી આવ્યા ન સમારી આવ્યા સમજા તે આલો ઉઠ દિશી પમણાઈકમે અધો દિશી પમણાઈકમે તિર્ય દિશી પમણાઈકમે ખેતુડી સહી અંતરતાએ એવા છઠ્ઠા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિ ચામી.
So the next vrat is the vow to limit your geographical area in 6 directions. The more you do in any area, or the further you go, the more violence you cause towards the planet. So the idea is to restrict the area in which you try and do things. So setting a limit for the upward direction, setting a limit for the downward direction, for east, west, north, and south directions. You will set such limits and not cross them willingly or physically, because it commits evil sins of violence, lies, theft, sensuality, and greed. You are therefore forbidden from doing such things, either by yourself or getting it done through mind, speech, or body. If you have crossed the upward direction, the limit of the upward direction, the limit of the lower direction, if you have crossed the limits of north, east, south, west, you have reduced the limit in one direction and increased it in another. You have proceeded in spite of suspecting that you are over the limit. Then, if you have committed any such sin, tasmin chami.
સાતમું વ્રત અભોગ પરિભોગ વિહીમ પચકાયણ માણે ઉલ્લણ્યા વિહીમ દંતણ વિહીમ ફલ વિહીમ બપભૂંગણ વિહીમ ઉવટણ વિહીમ મચ્ચણ વિહીમ વત વિહીમ વિલેવણ વિહીમ પુપ વિહીમ આભરણ વિહીમ ધૂપ વિહીમ પેજ વિહીમ બક્કણ વિહીમ ઓદણ વિહીમ સૂપ વિહીમ વિગઈ વિહીમ શાક વિહીમ માવરાઈ વિહીમ જેમણ વિહીમ પાણીય વિહીમ મુવાસ વિહીમ વાહણ વિહીમ ઉવાહણ વિહીમ શરણ વિહીમ સચિત વિહીમ દબ વિહીમ ઇત્યાદિકનું યથા પરિમાણ કીધું છે તે ઉપરાંત અભોગ પરિભોગ ભોગ નિમિત્તે ભોગવવાના પચકાણ જાવ જીવાય એક વ્યામથી વિહણમ ન કરેમી મનસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા સાતમા ઉપભોગ પરિભોગ દુએ પન્નતે તમજા ભોયણા હોય કમોય ભોયણા હોય સમણો વાસણમ પંચયારા જાણ્યા વે ન સવાર્યા વે તમજા ત્યાલો સચિત હારે સચિત પડિબતારે અપૌલ્યો સે પકણ્યા દુપગુલ્યો સે પકણ્યા તુચ્છો સે પકણ્યા કમવણમ સમણો વાસણમ પનરસ કમદાણાઈ જાણ્યા વે ન સમાર્યા વે તમજા ત્યાલો હિંગાલ કમે વણ કમે સાડી કમે ભાડી કમે ફોડી કમે દંત વાણિજ્ય કેશ વાણિજ્ય રસ વાણિજ્ય લખ વાણિજ્ય વિષ વાણિજ્ય જંત પિલાણા કમે નીલમ છણ કમે દવગી દાવેણા સરદ તલાક પરી સોસણ્યા અસહી જન પોસણ્યા એવા સાતમા વ્રતની વિષયના દિવસ સંબંધી ભોજનના 5 અતિચાર અને 15 કર્મદાન સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિન ચામયુગ્રહ.
Seventh vow, upbhog paribhog, is to set limits on the material goods that you use. Either articles that can be used once only, like food and water, or articles that can be used several times, like clothes, jewelry, ornaments, and others. You take a vow to restrict or fix the number of cloths that you use to wipe your body, like towels and napkins. Use restricted number of items to clean your teeth, restricted consumption of fruit, restrict the consumption of oils and lotions, restrict the use of beautification products, use limited quantities of water for bathing, restrict the stock of garments, restrict the use of cosmetics, restrict the use of flowers, limit the type and number of ornaments, limit the use of incense material, restrict the consumption of beverages like tea and coffee, restrict the consumption of sweets, the types of food grains, the types of pulses, the quantity of ingredients with nutrients like ghee, oil, jaggery, milk, or curd. Limit the use of green vegetables. Limit the use of sweet fruits. Restrict the number of items in your diet. Consume limited quantities of water. Consume limited quantities of mouth fresheners. Limit the number of vehicles, cars, etc. Limit the number of footwear. Limit the number of beds and mattresses. Limit the number of animate things like fruits with seeds, unboiled water. Limit the use of other objects and restrict to the things that you have agreed to limit yourself to. This means that you should not consume things that are animate or living. You should not cover something that is animate or living with something that is non-living. You should not consume things which may only be partially cooked. You will not consume something that has been cooked in a way that is cruel. You will not consume things that have less to eat and more to throw away, like sugarcane or custard apple. In relation to your trade or your work, there are 15 sinful trades that are worth knowing, trades in which furnaces or fires are used, to cut trees from the forest, the timber trade, to trade in fermented goods like liqueur, to raise money by the way of rent for things like carts, horses, and houses, earth digging and constructing wells or lakes, trading in ivory, bones, and horns, trading in fur, trading in things like liqueur, meat, honey, butter, or fat, trading in sealing wax, to deal in poisonous and toxic substances like poison or opium, to manufacture things by the process of crushing like sugar, oil, etc., to torture animals by piercing their limbs, to set fire to forests and fields, to empty lakes, wells, or ponds, to keep carnivorous animals, slaves, wicked men, to support your livelihood. If today you have committed any of these sins, then
આઠમું વ્રત અનર્થનનું વેરમણમ તૌવે અણતા દંડે પન્નતે તમજા અવચાણાચર્યમ પમાયાચર્યમ હિંસ્પયાણમ પાવકમો વયસમ એવા આઠમા અનર્થદંડ સેવાના પચકાણ જાવ જીવાય દુવ્યમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મનસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા આઠમા અનર્થદંડ વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયારા કાર્યવ્યા ન સમાર્યવ્યા તમ જાતે આદો કંદપી કુકુએ મોહરે સમજૂતા હે ગણે ઉભોગ પરિભોગઈ રતે એવા આઠમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસે બંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુઃખમ.
The eighth vow is to refrain from unnecessary violence, which penalizes your soul and gives you a penalty without any reason. So firstly, concentration or dhyan, evil concentration, mournful concentration or cruel concentration. That is thinking badly about others, thinking evil on others, or feeling sorry for yourself. Reluctance towards righteous deeds, to possess weapons that are deadly, to preach acts that are sinful. You refrain from such acts which give purposeless penalty to your soul, either by doing it yourself or asking others to do it through mind, speech, or body. You will not speak such words that increase passion. You will not perform bad gestures, carelessly speak meaningless things, collect weapons that are deadly, and amongst consumer items, have excessive attachment to them. If today you have committed any of these sins, then tasmichami.
નવમું સામાયિક વ્રત સાવજ જોગનું વેરમણમ જાવ નિયમમ પચવા સામી ધુવ્યમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મનસા વૈસા કાયસા એવી મારી તમારી સદ્રોહના પ્રરૂપનાય કરી સામાયિકનો અવસર આવે અને સામાયિક કરીએ તે વારે સ્પર્શનાય કરી શુદ્ધ હો જાઓ એવા નવમા સામાયિક વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણ્યવ્યા ન સમાર્યવ્યા તમ જાતે આલો મન દુપણિયાણે વય દુપણિયાણે કાય દુપણિયાણે સામાયસ સહ્ય કરણ્યાય સામાયસ અણવચિત કરણ્યાય એવા નવમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ लाग्यो હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુઃખમ.
So the ninth vow is the vow relating to faults against Samaik, which is what you're doing now. So the ninth vow is to remain in equanimity, Samaik, and to refrain from sinful acts, so that you stay within the limits and boundaries that are set, and you will not do or ask others to do anything outside of those, either in your thoughts, your words, or your deeds. You will not have employed your mind in a way that is foul or cruel. You will have not used language that is foul or cruel. You will not do any acts that are foul or cruel. You will not do samaik negligently or carelessly. You will not terminate samaik before its actual completion. If during samaik you have done any such sins, then tasmichami.
10મું દેશાવકાશી વ્રત દિન પ્રત્યે પ્રભાત થકી પ્રારંભીને પૂર્વાધિક 6 દિવસી જેટલી ભૂમિકા મોકળી રાખી છે. તે ઉપરાંત સહિચાએ કાયા જઈને 5 આશ્રવ સેવાના પચખાણ જાઓ અહોરંતમ દુવ્યમ તિવ્યણમ ન કરેમી ન કાર્વેમી મનસા વૈસા કાયસા જેટલી ભૂમિકા મોકળી રાખી છે તે માહી જે દ્રવ્યાદિકની મર્યાદા કીધી છે. તે ઉપરાંત ઉપભોગ પરિભોગ ભોગ નિમિત્તે ભોગવવાના પચખાણ જાઓ અહોરંતમ એકવ્યમ તિવ્યણમ ન કરેમી મનસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા 10મા દેશાવકાશી વ્રતના પંચયાર જાણ્યવના સમાર્ય એવા તમ જાતે આલોમ આણવન ભોગે પેશવન ભોગે સત્રાણુ આય રૂવાણુ આય ભૈયા બોકલ પખેવે એવા 10મા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસે બંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિ ક્ષામિ દુક્કડમ.
The 10th vow is to, for 1 day and 1 night, limit your activities even further. From dawn of the day, in the 6 directions where you've set limits, where you will not willfully and physically migrate or do things. You will not call for something which you know exists outside of those limits. You will not send somebody outside of the limits. You will not summon a person who is outside of those limits. You will not convey something to somebody outside of the limits by way of gesture or by throwing stones or pebbles or anything like that. If during this vow you have done any such thing, then tasmai chami dukkedam.
11મું પરિપૂર્ણ પોષક વ્રત અસણમ પાણમ ખાયમમ સાયમમના પચખાણ અભવમના પચખાણ મણિસુવનના પચખાણ માલાવન્નક વિલેવનના પચખાણ સતમુસ્લાદિક સાવજ જોગના પચખાણ જાઓ અહોરંત પજુવાસામી દુવ્યમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કાર્વેમી મનસા વૈસા કાયસા એવી મારી તમારી સદગુણના પ્રરૂપનાય કરી પોષદનો અવસર આવે અને પોષદ કરાવો તે વારે સ્પષ્ટનાય કરી શુદ્ધ હજો. એવા 11મા પરિપૂર્ણ પોષક વ્રતના પંચયાર જાણી હવે ન સમારે એવા તમ જાતે આલોમ અપડી લઈ દુપડી લઈ સિંચા સંતારે અપમજે દુપમજે સિંચા સંતારે અપડી લઈ દુપડી લઈ ઉચ્ચાર પાષણ ભૂમિ અપમજે દુપમજે ઉચ્ચાર પાષણ ભૂમિ પોષા સસમ્મ માણાનું પાલન્યામ. એવા 11મા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિ ક્ષામિ દુક્કડમ.
So the next verse, sutra, is for Poshad. Poshad is to live like a sadhu or a sadhvi for 1 day. And you do that to nourish your soul by religion and righteousness. During that 1 day, you abstain from food, water, dried fruits, and other eatables. You abandon sensuality. You give up jewelry and gold. You give up flowers, gardens, and cosmetics. You give up instruments that or weapons that could be used for sinful acts. For that 1 day and 1 night, you should do this and make sure that either by yourself or through somebody else, in mind, speech, or body, you do not make your bed carelessly without looking for living beings or not looking properly. That you have not swept the place where you will make your bed or have swept it carelessly. You will not have seen properly the place to dispose of your waste or have seen it carelessly. You have not swept such a place, or again swept it carelessly. You have not followed the Poshad vow in the proper manner. If during Poshad you have committed any of these sins, then tasmai chami dukkedam.
12મું અતિથિ સંવિભાગ વ્રત સમણે નિકંતે ફાસુણમ એસણીજણમ અસણમ પાણમ ખાયમમ સાયમમ વતપડિક કંબલ પાઈ પૂછણેણમ પાડિયારું પીઠ ફલક સિંચા સંતારેણમ ઓસહ બેસજ્જણમ પડીલા બેમાણે વિહરિસામી. એવી મારી તમારી સદ્રોના પ્રરૂપનાય કરી સુપાત્ર સાધુ સાધ્વીજીની જોગવાઈ મળે અને નિર્દોષ હાર પાણી વહોરાવે ત્યારે તે વારે સ્પષ્ટનાય કરી સુત હોજો. એવા 12મા અતિથિ સંવિભાગ વ્રતના પંચયાર જાણી હવ્યાના સમારી હવ્યા તમ જાતે આલોમ સચિતની ખેવણ્યા સચિત પહેણ્યા કાલા એકમે પર્વવે સે મચ્છર્યાય. એવા 12મા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિ ક્ષામિ દુક્કડમ.
The 12th vow is Atithi Samvibhag. So an Atithi is somebody who is deserving and comes on an uncertain date at an unspecified time to you to collect food and water. So typically a Jain sadhu. So when you have the opportunity and virtue of sharing food and provisions with saints or other deserving people, religious sadhus or sadhvis who have renounced everything and want lifeless or inanimate, innocent cooked food, inanimate water, sweet meats, mouth fresheners, simple white clothes, wooden pots and utensils, blankets or shawls, or woolen brushes, or things which can be given and taken back, like wooden benches, or beds, or planks, or places to spread the mattress or the mattress itself, medicine, or a composition of these things. You shall give devotedly. You should cherish such an opportunity with such faith. When circumstances arise for giving innocent food and water to deserving sadhus and sadhvis, then you should do it purely. In this vow, if you have mixed living things or living food with non-living food whilst you are giving, if you have covered up living food with food that is non-living before giving, if you have given something that you know is spoiled, fermented, stale, if you have asked others to give in spite of being able to do it yourself, if you have been unduly proud after giving this food, then in this vow, if you have sinned in any such way, thus vichami,
18 પ્રકારના પાપ સ્થાનિક સંબંધી પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તે આલો છું. પહેલું પ્રાણાતિપાત, બીજું મૂર્છાવાદ, ત્રીજું અદર્થતા, ચોથું મૈથુન, પાંચમું પરિગ્રહ, છઠ્ઠું ક્રોધ, સાતમું માન, આઠમું માયા, નવમું લોભ, દસમું રાગ, 11મું દ્વેષ, 12મું કલહ, 13મું અભ્યાખાન, 14મું પૈશુન્ય, 15 પરપરિવાર, 16મું રહી હરય, 17મું માયામોહ, 18મું મિચ્છાધન સંસલમ. એ 18 પ્રકારના પાપ સ્થાનક મારા જીવે તમારા જીવે સેવ્યા હોય, સેવરાવ્યા હોય, સેવતા પ્રત્યે અનુમોદના કરી હોય તો અનંત અવસિત કેવડી ભગવાન આપની સાક્ષી તસ્મૈ મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
We're now on lesson 19, and this is the 18 types of acts that are sinful. Violence towards any type of life, to lie, to steal, which is to take anything without permission, to be unchaste, to have worldly attachments, or anger, pride, cunning, greed, attachment, hatred or spite, to quarrel, to falsely accuse or allege something, to gossip, to criticize and backbite, to be happy in doing sinful acts and unhappy in doing religious acts, to lie maliciously, to trust a false god, a false guru, or a false religion. If today you have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami dukkadam.
25 પ્રકારના મિથ્યાત્વ સંબંધી પાપ દોષ લાગ્યા હોય તે આલો. પહેલું અભિપ્રેત મિથ્યાત્વ, બીજું અનાભિપ્રેત મિથ્યાત્વ, ત્રીજું અભિનિવેશિક મિથ્યાત્વ, ચોથું સાંસારિક મિથ્યાત્વ, પાંચમું અણાભોગ મિથ્યાત્વ, છઠ્ઠું લૌકિક મિથ્યાત્વ, સાતમું લોકોત્તર મિથ્યાત્વ, આઠમું કુપ્રાવચન મિથ્યાત્વ, નવમું જીવને અજીવ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, દસમું અજીવને જીવ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 11મું સાધુને કુસાધુ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 12મું કુસાધુને સાધુ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 13મું આઠ કર્મથી મુકાણ તેને નથી મુકાણ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 14મું આઠ કર્મથી નથી મુકાણ તેને મુકાણ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 15મું ધર્મને અધર્મ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 16મું અધર્મને ધર્મ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 17મું જીન માર્ગને અન્ય માર્ગ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 18મું અન્ય માર્ગને જીન માર્ગ સરદેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 19મું જીન માર્ગથી ઓછું પ્રવૃત્તિ મિથ્યાત્વ, 20મું જીન માર્ગથી અધિક પ્રવૃત્તિ મિથ્યાત્વ, 21મું જીન માર્ગથી વિપરીત પ્રવૃત્તિ મિથ્યાત્વ, 22મું અવિનય મિથ્યાત્વ, 23મું અકિર્યા મિથ્યાત્વ, 24મું અજ્ઞાન મિથ્યાત્વ, 25મું જાતના મિથ્યાત્વ. આ 25 પ્રકારના મિથ્યાત્વ મારા જીવે તમારા જીવે સેવ્યા હોય, સેવરાવ્યા હોય, સેવતા પ્રત્યે અનુમોદના કરી હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The next lesson, number 20, is to look at the 25 types of wrong beliefs or faith. If you stubbornly support, without discrimination of true or false, something you know it's wrong, you believe in all gods and all gurus, whether they are good or bad, you insist on a personal opinion, even though you know it is false. You have suspicious nature towards the right religion. You believe in being in absolute ignorance. You believe that gurus or devtas, which are in contradiction of the true religion, and you also recognize and celebrate their so-called festive and holy occasions. You worship the Tirthankars with selfish motive. You agree with the opinions of those who are hypocrites. You consider the living as non-living, and you consider that which is non-living as living. You consider somebody who is a sadhu as not a sadhu, and you consider somebody who is not a sadhu as a sadhu. You consider those that are liberated from karma as unliberated, and you consider those that are not liberated as liberated. You consider something that is holy as unholy and something that is unholy as holy. You consider the path of Jainism as some other path, and you consider some other path as the path of Jainism. You understate the facts of Jainism, or you overstate the facts of Jainism, or you state facts that you know are contradictory to the facts of Jainism. You disrespect gurus, elders, sadhus, and others. You have disbelief in religious practices. You glorify ignorance. You behave badly with a guru or your elders. Of these 25 wrong beliefs, if you have committed any of them or asked others and got them to commit to any of them, either through mind, speech, or body, then if you have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami dukra.
14 પ્રકારના સમૂચિત મનુષ્ય સંબંધી પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તે આ લેવું છું. પહેલું વિચારે સુવા, બીજું પાસવાણે સુવા, ત્રીજું ખેલે સુવા, ચોથું સિંગાણે સુવા, પાંચમું વંતે સુવા, છઠ્ઠું પિત્તે સુવા, સાતમું પુએ સુવા, આઠમું સોણીએ સુવા, નવમું સુકે સુવા, દસમું સુખ પુગલ પરિસાડે સુવા, 11મું વિલે જીવ કલેવરે સુવા, 12મું વિધિપુરી સંજોગે સુવા, 13મું નગર નિતમણે સુવા, 14મું સવે સૂચે વસુઈ ઠાણે સુવા. એ 14 પ્રકારના સમૂચિત મનુષ્યની વિરાધના કરી હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
Samunchim is bacteria, and we should make sure that we don't do things that harms even the smallest type of living beings. The 14 types of bacteria are those that arise in stools, arise in urine, in spit, in nasal secretions, in vomit, in acidic vomit, in pus, in blood, in semen, in dried semen when made wet, in a cadaver or a dead body, arising during intercourse, arising in city drains, arising in any other filthy place. If you have committed sins towards these 14 types of bacteria today, then tasmicham. That is the end of the Pratikraman. The 5th avashak for your soul is counsel. So can I ask you to sit comfortably with your back straight, spine straight, your eyes gently closed, your hands on your laps, and we will say Aloina and Kausak together.
ચાર ગતિ 24 દંડક 84 લાખ જીવાયોની 1 કરોડ 97 લાખ કુલ કોટીના જીવને મારા જેવે તમારા જેવે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી આરંભે સમારંભે મન વચન કાય કરી દુહાવ્યા હોય દ્રવ્ય પ્રાણ ભાવ પ્રાણ દુહાવ્યા હોય પરિતાપના કિલામ ન ઉપજાવે હોય ક્રોધે માને માયા એ લોભે રાગે દ્વેષે હાસ્ય ભયે ખડાય ત્રિઢાએ આપ થાપનાય પરુથાપનાય દુષ્ટ લેશે દુષ્ટ પરિણામે દુષ્ટ ધ્યાને આર્તતરાને રૌદ્રદાને કરીને ઈર્ષ્યાએ મમતે હટપણે અવજ્ઞા કરી હોય દુઃખમાં જોડ્યા હોય સુખથી ચૂકવ્યા હોય પ્રાણ પર્યાય શિવ સંજ્ઞા ઇન્દ્રિયાદિ લગતી વૃત્તિથી ભ્રષ્ટ કર્યા હોય તો તે સર્વ મળી 18,24,120 પ્રકારે પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો અનંત અનંત સિદ્ધ ભગવાન આપની સાક્ષી તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ. હું કૌશિક કરાવું છું 4 શબ્દ. इच्छामि ठामि कौसगम जो मे देवसी वैयारो कहो कायो वायो मानसे उसुतो मगो अकपो करनी जो दिचाओ तो विचिंति अणारो अनिचय सावक पाहु गौ नाणे तदसरि चरिता चरिते सुये समाये तीणम कुतीणम चौणम कसारणम पंचणम मणुवारणम तीणम गुणवारणम चौणम सिखाव्याणम बारस वियस सावक धम्मस जम कंडियम जम विराम तस्मिच्छामि दुक्कड़म. 4 लोगसनो कौसक कराવું છું. लोकस जोई करे तमति करे जेणे अरते किते सम चविसम पी केवड़ी उसत मंजम च वंदे संभव अभिनंदन स्वयं च पंपम स्वासम जेनम च चंपवंते सूयम च पुष्पदतम सिच संवासुपुजम च विमल मणतम च जीर्णम तम संदीप च वंदामि कुंतमरम च मल्ले वंदे मुनिसूयम नमि जेनम च वंदामि रिठनेमि पासम तव वर्तमानम च एवं मय अभित्वा वीरै मला पैंजर्मणा चौवीसंबी जीर्णव्रातितरमे पश्यन्तु कीर्तिवन्दे मय्या जय लोकसुतमासितारुग्भैलाभं समाहि वर्मुत्तमं दिन्तु जन्देषु निमलरायचेषु अयं पयासर सागर गंभीरा सीता सिद्धि मम दिसन्तु लोकस्य उच्चय करे दमतितरे जिणे अरन्ते कितैसं चौवीसंबि केवळी उसत् मञ्ज्यं च वन्दे सम्भवम् अभिनन्दनं च सुमयं च पङ्गं सुवासं जीर्णं च चन्दपवन्दे सूयं च पुपदतं श्रेयसि च संवासभुजं च विमलमणितं च जीर्णं तं सन्धिं च वन्दामि कुन्तुमरं च मल्लिवन्दे मुनिसूयं नमि जीर्णं च वन्दामि रिटनेमि पासं तव वदमानं च एव मया अभित्वा वीरैमलापैञ्जन्मना चौवीसंबि जीर्णव्रातितरमे पश्यन्तु कीर्तिवन्दे मया जय लोकस्य उत्तमासितारुग्भैलाभं समाहिवर्मुत्तमं दिन्तु चन्दिषु निमलरायचेषु अयं पयसर सागर गम्भीरा सीता सिद्धि मम दिसन्तु लोकस्य उच्चय करे तमतितरे जिणे अरन्ते कीर्तैसं चौवीसंबि केवळी उसत् मञ्ज्यं च वन्दे सम्भवम् मभिनन्दनं च सुमयं च पङ्गं सुपासं जीर्णं च चन्दपवन्दे सूयं च पुपदतं श्रेयसि च संवासभुजं च विमलमणितं च जीर्णं तं सन्धिं च वन्दामि कुन्तुवरं च मल्लिवन्दे मुनिसूयं नमि जीर्णं च वन्दामि रिटनेमि पासं तव वर्तमानं च एव मया अभित्वा वीरैमलापैञ्जन्मना चौवीसंबि जीर्णव्रातितरमे पश्यन्तु कीर्तिवन्दे मय्या जय लोकसत्तमा सीतारुग्भैलाभं समाहिवर्मुत्तमं दिन्तु चन्देषु निमलरायचेषु अयं पयासर सागर गम्भीरा सीता सिद्धि मम दिसन्तु लोकस्य उच्चय करे दमतितरे जिणे अरन्ते कितैसं चौवीसंबि केवळी उसं मञ्ज्यं च वन्दे सम्भवम् अभिनन्दनं च सुमयं च पङ्गं सुवासं जीर्णं च चन्दपवन्दे सूयं च पुपततं श्रेयसि च संवासभुजं च विमलमणितं च जीर्णं तं सन्धिं च वन्दामि कुन्तुमरं च मल्लिं वन्दे मुनिसूयं नमि जीर्णं च वन्दामि रिटनेमि पासं तव वर्तमानं च एव मया अभित्वा वीरैमलापैञ्जन्मना चौवीसंबि जीर्णव्रातितरमे पश्यन्तु कीर्तिवन्दे मय्या जय लोकस्य उत्तमासितारुग्भैलाभं समाहिवर्मुत्तमं दिन्तु चन्देषु निमलरा आयचेषु अयं पयसर सागर गंभीरा सीता सिद्धि मम दिसन्तु ચાર લોકો કાવસે પૂરો થતા પાડું છું અને પડાવું છું તેમાં કાનો માત્રા મીંડું પદક્ષર ગાતા સૂત્ર ઓછું અધિક વિપરીત પ્રણાનું ગણાનું હોય તો હરિયંતાનંદ સિદ્ધ ભગવાન આપની સાક્ષી તસ્મિ છામી દુગ્રમ નમો હરિયંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો ઐર્યાણમ નમો વચાણમ નમો લોહી સવસાણમ નમો હરિયંતાણમ.
Having done Pratikraman and something for our souls, the next and last avashak is Pachkan. And what I would like to ask all of you is that if you have sat and concentrated on this, you will know that this whole book talks about reducing your attachment, and it talks about reducing your possessions, because every time you possess something, it causes cruelty. So for the next year, I would like to ask you to give up something. Take a vow, Pachkan, to give up something. Not something you don't like, something you love. Or if that is too much, then agree to do something positive. Like you will meditate every day, you will do a mala, you will say prayer, you will go to deras, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. In your mind, do something that is going to improve you and take you forward. Okay? And we'll give you the vow.
સૌની ધારણા પ્રમાણે ચોવ્યાના પચકા ધારી જજો. ચૌવ્યંબિયારમ પચકામી હસણમ પાણમ ખાયમમ સાયમમ અન્નથણા ભોગેણમ સસાગારેણમ મતરાકારેણમ સવસમાઈ વાતાકરણમ અપ્પાણમ બોસિરામી.
That is the end of the Pratikraman. We will now finish by completing the vow of Samaik that we started with, and then we'll move on to the next section.
પહેલું નમોતુણમ શ્રી સીત ભગવંતોને કરું છું. નમોતુણમ હરિયંતાણમ ભગવંતાણમ આયકરણમ તિતરાણમ સંસબુદ્ધાણમ પુરુષોત્તમાણમ પુરીસ્યાણમ પુરીસવર પુંડ્યાણમ પુરીસવર ગંધતિણમ લઘુત્તમાણમ લોકજ્ઞાણમ લોકજ્ઞાનમ લોકપૈમાણમ લોકપજોયકરાણમ અભયદાણમ ચક્ષુદાણમ મગદાણમ શરણદાણમ જીવદાણમ બોયદાણમ તમદાણમ તમદેશયાણમ તમનાયકાણમ તમસારીણમ તમરચાણમ ચક્વટીણમ દેવોદાણમ શરણ ગઈ પૈઠાણમ અપરિયોનાણમ દસંધાણમ વીરશવાણમ જીનાણમ જાણમ દિનાણમ તાર્યાણમ બુતાણમ બોયાણમ મુતાણમ મોયકાણમ સવંદનમ સવદરિસીણમ શ્રીમલ મરુઈમણન મકઈમાવમ અપુરાવતી સિદ્ધગી નામ તેમ ઠાણમ સપતાણમ નમો જીણાણમ જીભાણમ. બીજું નમોતુણમ શ્રી હરિયંદેવોને કરું છું. નમોતુણમ હરિયંતાણમ ભગવંતાણમ આયકરણમ તિતરાણમ સંસબુતાણમ પુરુષોત્તમાણમ પુરીસ્યાણમ પુરીસવર પુંડ્યાણમ પુરીસવર ગંધતિણમ લઘુત્તમાણમ લોકજ્ઞાણમ લોકજ્ઞાનમ લોકપૈવાણમ લોકપજોયકરાણમ અભયદાણમ ચક્ષુદાણમ મગદાણમ શરણદાણમ જીવદાણમ બોયદાણમ તમદાણમ તમદેશયાણમ તમનાયકાણમ તમસારીણમ તમવરચાણમ ચક્વટીણમ દેવોદાણમ શરણ ગઈ પૈઠાણમ અપરિવર્ણાણમ દસંધાણમ વીરચમાણમ જીનાણમ જાણમ દિનાણમ તાર્યાણમ બુતાણમ બોયાણમ મુતાણમ મોયકાણમ સવનનમ સવદરિસીણમ શ્રીમલ મરુઈમણન મકઈમાવમ અપુરાવતી સિદ્ધગી નામ તેમ ઠાણમ સંભાવેકામાપમ. ત્રીજું નમો તણ મમ તમ ગુરુ તમ આર્યસ્ય તમ ઉદેશક સંવંદામિનમ ભગવંતમ તત્તગયમ યુગે તિકટ્ટુ વંદામિ તિકુતુવાર્ણમ પાયણમ વંદામિ નમ સ્વામી સકારમિ સમાણમિ કલ્યાણમ મંગલમ દેવ્યમ ચૈયમ પંચવાસામિ નમો રિયંતાણમ નમો સિતાણમ નમો હૈર્યાણમ નમો ઉજાણમ નમો લુસરસાણમ નમો રિયંતાણમ.
More in that. So that's the end of the Pratikraman. If in the last 4 days we've said or done anything that has upset you, offended you, then tasmit chami. If you want to stretch your legs for 2 minutes, no more, then we'll do that. But we're just going to say one more verse and then we'll stop.
દ્રવ્ય થકી સાવજ જોગ સેવાના પચકાન ક્ષેત્ર થકી આખા લોક પ્રાણી કાળ થકી બે ઘડીના પચકાન લીધા હતા તે પૂરા થતા પાડું છું અને પડાવું છું ભાવ થકી 6 કોટી પચકાન કર્યા હતા તે પૂરા થતા પાડું છું અને પડાવું છું એવા નવમા સામાયિક વ્રતમ પંચયાર જાણી હવે ના સમાર્ય વ્રતમ જાત્યાલો મંદુપણ્યાણે વૈદુપણ્યાણે કાયદુપણ્યાણે સામાય સસહ્ય કરણે સામાય અસન વચેસ કરણે તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિક સમ્મમ કાયણમ ન ફાસ્યમ ન પાલ્યમ ન સોયમ ન તિર્યમ ન કિત્યમ ન આરાયમાણે અણુપાલિકા ન ભવય તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં 10 પન્ના 10 વચનના 12 કાના એ 32 દોષ માયલો કોઈ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં પુરુષ કથા ભદ કથા દેશ કથા રાજ કથા 4 વી કથા માયલી કોઈ કથા કરી હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં આહાર સંજ્ઞા ભય સંજ્ઞા મૈથુન સંજ્ઞા પરિગ્રહ સંજ્ઞા કરી હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં અતિક્રમ વ્યતિક્રમ અતિચાર અનાચાર જાણતા અજાણતા મન વચન કાય કરી કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિક વ્રત વિધિએ લીધું વિધિએ પાડી વિધિ કરતા વિધિ થયું હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં કાનો માત્રા મીંડું પદક્ષર ગાતા સૂત્ર ઓછું અધિક વિપરીત ભણાણું ગણાણું હોય તો હરે શ્રી ભગવાન આપની સાક્ષી તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
We'll finish by reciting Nokar mantra together. Please.
Namo Harihantaram, Namo Sitaram, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Uvachayanam, Namo Yoge Sarvasamunam, Teso Panchanamukaro, Sarva Pavakanasano, Manglanam Cha Sabdesim, Pradamam Bhavai Mangalam.
Om Namo Riyantaram.
Namo Harihantaram.
So yes, for 2 minutes, if you want to stretch your legs, and then we'll start in exactly 2 minutes. So before we start, I hope you found the Pratikraman useful.
Yeah.
Is there any questions from the Pratikraman before we start or carry on from where we left off yesterday?
Summary, la bar vows channel.
Yes.
If you just summarize each of them, just one word. I know one for this violence, there's
So-
stealing,
So the vows,
celibacy sort of thing.
yes, the first 5 vows
Yeah,
are the same as the vows a sadhu takes.
yeah.
The difference is that their vows are absolute.
Hmm.
Ours are relative.
Yeah.
So ours say to the best of my ability in the limit I have set. So that actually means you should all have these vows. Because if you like your shoes, you can have 100 shoes, but that's a vow. And the idea is that once you have a limit, in your mind, there is some kind of restriction. That means that you will think twice before going over it. Theirs are absolute. So those are the 5 vows. After the 5, the rest of the vows are what are called supplementary vows. And these vows are meant for only one thing, and that is to support the major 5 vows. So the first vow is in terms of your activities, staying within one geographical limit. And the idea of that is that, the more you do, if you travel from here to India, that flight actually kills a lot of life. So by traveling or not traveling or limiting the amount you travel, you contain that, okay? The next vow is about upbhog paribhog, articles that you can use once or several times to place limits on. Try and live within restriction. You see, the better you do financially, the more unlimited your ability comes.
Yeah.
The idea of restricting yourself is understanding that this causes violence. And you want to limit the type of violence. In the first book, I said this a couple of days ago, in the first book of our Agam, Acharan Sutra, it is the oldest book in terms of age, and it is believed to have been written at the time of Bhagwan Mahavir. It defines sin. Any harm to any other form of life in any way, mind, speech, or body, is sin. So, in limiting things, that is the key driver. And then the eighth vow is the vow of not doing unnecessary and limiting and violence that penalizes you. Bad words, bad gestures, thinking badly of others. All of these things give you nothing. But they bind karma to your soul, which means you have to suffer. The ninth is basically to remain in samaik regularly. What you do today, a sadhu would take for life. Because at the point you stay in samaik, we were discussing this yesterday, that all the passion that you have comes from the fact that we have evolved from animals. And when you take monkeys, apes, our closest cousins, the DNA difference between us and them is 2%. We are 98% the same as they are. And we have inherited all of their ego, greed, pride, anger. And if you look at, animals in Africa, for example, you see this behavior. It's everywhere. So the 2% is what makes you human. And so to do the 2%, you have to overcome these passions, overcome these, these attachments and these sorts of things. And to do that, samaik is the way to do it, because samaik means you remain in equanimity, level-headed, do not react, do not get into this. So the more you do it, the more you will become good at not getting angry, at not getting greedy, at not being jealous. And this means you're moving towards becoming more human. And we defined that 2 days ago. We said to be human is to live in gratitude, is to be compassionate, and is to forgive. So when we say Michami Dukraman, how many times do we say that in this book? This is about living in that way. The 10th is to, for a short period, so this is going even further, for a short time, take samai, for a short time, limit what you do and where you do it. So I'm going to live only within these 4 walls for 1 day, for example. And then the next is to do the vrat of poshan, live like a sadhu, which is even further. So these are almost training you to become that. And the last, or the 12th vow, is the vow to share with those people that are deserving. It doesn't mean give everybody anything, but give those that are deserving and who come to you freely and openly, and share whatever it is you have. So yeah, and those things are the things that move you forward spiritually. The reason we cover them is that anything you have done is to A, make you aware that this is what you should do, and B, for you to say Michami Lukram with some bow attached to it. And that bow is what makes your Michami Lukram either great, good, or okay. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else?
Normally we do quite a long Pratikraman
Hmm.
and a Samai,
Hmm.
and today we did a very short one.
We did
Does
it
it-
in the prescribed time, 48 minutes.
Yeah, okay, so it doesn't matter which one you do.
What matters is the power with which you do it. My question to most people who do Pratikraman, but don't or haven't spent the time to learn it, is, are you doing yoga? Because when the person in front stands up, you stand up, and they sit down, you sit down. When they cross their legs, you cross their legs. You don't understand it. If you don't understand it, how do you have power? How do you have that remorse, that intent of really saying sorry? And if you don't do If you go to somebody and say, I'm really sorry, but you're laughing and you have a smile, they won't believe you. So this is to give you a shortcut from not learning all of that. Back in the day, in the old days, you used to have to learn this at Pathshala and memorize it. That was the idea that so the idea of this is to give you the power. You see, we don't have any of the other formalities. We don't stand up, sit down, we sit together, but if you do it with the power, you'll understand.
Just, can you just explain that? Why don't we do that kamana and everything? Can you just say?
You see, the word Pratikraman is to go back, okay? Now, back in the day, I'm talking hundreds of years ago, people, a lot of them were not literate and they didn't have books and so on. So what we did rather cleverly in those times is made what was a simple thing that we just did into a long ritual where we covered the whole philosophy. We talk about heavens and hells, about sadhus, about their vows, about all these things that have nothing to do with Pratikraman. But by learning them and memorizing them, you learn the religion. And so that's what this is. When you do the one next door, you will go through the whole philosophy, not just Pratikraman. This is just Pratikraman. That's it. Okay?
So how do they do the different rituals? Like we have books, we have books, and there are books and prayers and divine and all that. And why don't we?
So I think the question was, why is ours different from what the others do? You see, the big difference in Jainism, the big difference, so there are two big differences. One is Digambars and Shvetambars. So Digambars don't actually have pollution. They have Das Lakshan, which follows after. Okay? And in the Shvetambar, there is the Deravasi, who sit over there, and the Stanakwasi, who sit over there. The difference between them is if you worship idols or not. If you worship idols, of course, you're going to have things to worship them with, symbols and actions and so on. And if you believe in a book, you sit here with a book and you do pratikam. That's the big difference. So we don't have any implements. We don't, fold and unfold and have all of those things because we don't actually have idol worship. As now in this, what we've done is simplified it even more because we want you to learn the pratikama to help improve your actions and your spiritual path. Once that happens, you will learn everything because it is something you want to do. At this point, if you learn this, then it's good. There was one more, yes.
I heard on 19th and 20th that it's a sin to believe the other side, false sadhus and false religion. So what does it mean by false sadhus? And because when we go to the temples, we do believe in Krishna and Lord Shiva.
So that's an excellent question. When we go to temples, we believe in Krishna and Shiva. Now, the people who believe in Krishna and Shiva and the books that relate to Krishna and Shiva say that they are God.
Yes.
They created the world. We say there is no God. So are you believing in white or black? Because there's no middle ground, there's no gray. If Shiva created the world, then the world doesn't run on Atma, Karma, and reincarnation. If you believe in Jainism, that is all it runs on. And there's a reason. You see, if we believe in the gods have something called grace. Grace means that they can do that and suddenly your karma disappears. Suddenly you can go to this. So we don't have that. We live on karma, full stop. And this is why it talks about believing in sadhu. So what is a sadhu and what is a guru in this definition? It's very clear. And if you're interested, I know we've got all the agams here. The second one called Sutra Kritang, it defines it in there. That a sadhu is somebody who follows the vrats, the vows that they have taken, the 5 vows, lives by begging for food, walks barefoot, and doesn't eat after dark. Because these things have real meaning. If you're begging for food, can you have ego? You're going to the poorest people and saying, please give me food and bowing down, right? It kills your ego. If you're walking barefoot from place to place, can you have fear? There's no mobile phone or credit card if you break down. If you're wearing your one piece of cloth, where's your attachment? I mean, it could be to that one piece of cloth, but you don't have all the things and the cars and the houses. You don't have a name so you have no family, you have no friends. So the idea of this is it's a process that we start here of cleansing your soul to get you to the point where the karma finishes. If the karma finishes, your suffering ends. And you might say, I'm not suffering. Well, all the people who live in Gaza or Ukraine are all human beings. And that can be your next incarnation, depending on your karma, not depending on God's grace. And that's the difference. So what it says is, yes, respect them. We believe in Anekant. Now, again, Anekant, everybody thinks, means that there are multiple views. Yes, but it also says that they're not all correct. If you eat and I'm, for example, vegan, so that's my point of view. You might be vegetarian, that's another point of view. Somebody else might eat eggs, somebody else might eat meat. I appreciate that that happens. So there are several points of view, but I don't have to agree with them. I don't think they're right. They're there, they exist. And that's what it's saying, that when you choose your gods and your gurus and whatever, so traditionally, the person who is a guru, their job is to help you to progress spiritually. That is what a guru is. So it's typically a sadhu who is following a path and helping you along that route. And the reason for that is typically a guru has to be somebody who is higher up than you. Like when you go to school, your teacher has to know more than you, otherwise, they're your classmate, they're not your teacher. So that is the reason, but that's why it says it. And it says it twice as well. Anybody else? Ah, there was one more, yes.
What language is the Pratikraman in? Is it Gujarati and Sanskrit or?
It's in 3.
Oh, okay.
Originally, so the word pollution is Sanskrit. The word Pajoshan is Prakrit. So originally, Prakrit was the language of the common person, which is why Bhagwan Mahavir decided to preach in Prakrit. Sanskrit was the language of the Brahmins, who were scholarly. But what has happened is over time, as this has kind of evolved, don't forget, this is hundreds of years of evolution. People add words, they add phrases, they change things, happens everywhere. So what happens is that you've gone from just Prakrit to Sanskrit to even a bit of Gujarati. As we've adapted it and changed it. What you might find interesting is that when you see all these sects of sadhus, each having an acharya, normally they can't change very much because everything is written and prescribed. What they can change is their pratikam. So if you go to, for example, Samniji Therapant and do their pratikam, and it's very different. It's in Hindi mainly, it's a different time, different whatever. So that's one thing they can change. And so that's why we have lots of little add-ons. There was one, yes.
Sorry, on that, just on that subject, they can change that, but there is core which stays the same.
Which is what this is, but the detail you put into it.
Yes, the details.
Yes. If you say, if I've caused any type of sin, mind, speech, or body to any type of life, then tasmichami dukram, that's pratikram. But it's the detail and the structure, and that's the difference.
Is there something like original agams and translated agams?
So there are all the agams in the library. And they are.
I read them, but Gujarati and.
So there's the original language, then there's a Hindi and a Gujarati translation. Yes. So, but the original is in there as well.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it's original Hindi and Gujarati, so that you get you can.
In the original, what language? What is the name of it?
It's they're in Prakrit.
No, not Magdi.
So, well, Prakrit is the name, and it has different subsects. So the Jain version of the Magadhi, or the half Magadhi, coming from Magad, which is the town where Mahavir came from. The Buddhist version is Prakrit, but it's Pali, because that's the version. So these are, dialects, if you like. One more? Yes.
Another question. So we talk about the Monday, just want to expand on that. So in Jainism, we talk about days and day block.
Yes.
In certain karmas
Hmm.
can make you dead rather than in liberation. Can you just explain on that?
So, you see, and let me explain something I said yesterday as well, because I think it's important to repeat, which is that from a Jain perspective, we believe in duality. Duality means that your physical body and your Atma are separate. When you die, and if you look at a dead body, you will see that it is very different to when it was alive, because the energy, the electricity, the consciousness, whatever you want to call it, is the Atma, it's left. Once the Atma leaves, the body is useless. So the Atma is the energy that your body has to do what it does. So the purpose of the body is what? The purpose of the body can be many things. When you have a body here, you could use it for sin, you could use it for enjoyment, or you could use it to liberate yourself. It's the same body. Yes? And this depends on your mind, your speech, and your knowledge and your conduct. Now, in that scenario, what we believe in is the idea that the body is there because karma is a physical particle, right? When you attach karma. So you need something physical to experience it. If you have been angry at somebody, really angry, and you bound that karma, you need a body to feel the anger of somebody else so you can feel what you did. What you do, you will get. Simple law of this, right? So all the pain, all the happiness, all the compassion, all the suffering, whatever you do out, you will have to experience. So that's why you have this body. That's it, from a Jain perspective. And this body has to go to places where that is possible. So if you are, somebody who spends their life doing charity, looking after people, and really good acts all your life, you've bound huge amounts of good karma. You have to go and spend it somewhere. And devlok is where you go to spend it. And there are many devloks. So depending on how far you get, similarly, there are many hells. So if you're violent, you kill people, you lie, you cheat, you do all these things, you go to a hell. And if you're somewhere in between, the between bit gets you into animals or insects or plant life. Human life, interestingly, is the same even in Christianity. Jesus said that the meek will inherit the earth. Meek are people who are simple and straightforward. Jainism says the same thing. Being simple and straightforward gives you a human birth. And so when you look at even this room, why are you of different shapes and sizes from different families doing things at different levels, different speeds, different minds, different knowledge? This is your karma. That's it. You're all the same. Your Atma is identical. But just like the sun is the same as every other star, the clouds that cover it determine how much light and heat you get. It's the same with us. The karma that covers you decides on how much of everything you get. Whether your life is smooth, it's full of hurdles, it's full of pain, it's full of things happen, good things happening. It's all karma. And this book keeps trying to tell you, if you've done any such thing, tasmichami dukram, to stop you binding that karma, to make your life straightforward and simple in that direction. That's its purpose. And that's why it, in some ways, looks like it's prescriptive. What you've done is you've gone through every type of sin and said, if I've done this, I'm sorry. So you've kind of wiped the whole thing with a big broom. Now you've got a clean slate. And if you kind of keep doing that, your slate will stay clean for longer. You keep binding less, you keep moving forward. So the other thing between thinking about God and no God is when God puts you on earth, he decides your destiny. Here, if you think about fate, karma, and destiny. So, what is your fate? Your fate is what happens to you, which we believe is the karma you've bound there. Right? Then, whatever happens to you, what do? If you're in Samaik, you do nothing. And that goes. If you're angry, you put a lot of energy into that and you bind more karma. Right? Now, karma loves its life, so it wants you to bind the karma, so it comes back and sticks to you, and that becomes your destiny. So, your fate is what you've brought, the karma is your, because you have a choice, you have free will. You can decide to act or not act, you can decide to do this or this. Whatever you decide, that becomes the karma you bind, and that karma you bind becomes your destiny. So, what we were saying 2 days ago, again worth repeating, is when something happens, whatever it is, when it happens, start with why has it happened? It's your karma, whatever it is. Nobody can do anything to you. Nobody can do anything for you. And I know you, as I said yesterday, there's a lot of mums here who are probably saying, I spend all my time with my kids. And I said, if you can get them all into Oxford and all playing football in the Premier League, then I believe you have control. It doesn't happen. So, if you accept, that acceptance is the first thing. If at that point, the person who has done something to you, all he is doing is helping you to experience your karma. If at that time you're compassionate and you say, Michami Dukram, whatever happened, we move on, then that's your destiny. So if you live in compassion, if you live in forgiveness, and you live in gratitude, then your destiny will be like that. If you're always annoyed, always angry, always reacting, always physical, always whatever, that's what life becomes. It's a cycle. You decide on the cycle. Now, in this, there's also another thing that is really, really important. And that is that you have to remember that of all the people on this planet, you're some of the luckiest. You know, you don't worry about food, you don't worry about something over your head, you have a car, you have money, you have time to spend doing religion, you have all of these things, you're at the top of the tree. At this point, there are only two things you can do. You can start to realize why you're here and go forward, or you can say, this is a wonderful life, enjoy it and go backward. If you think about life, think about it from the way Buddha taught about it. He grew up to be a prince, and his father was worried because when he was born, he had an astrologer who said, you'll either be a great king or a great saint. Father was really worried. Didn't want a great saint, he wanted a great king. So he locked him up in the palace. And until one day, he sneaked out and saw people suffering. He had never seen this. Saw people begging. He saw people with not enough food. And suddenly he realized that life wasn't what he was experiencing. And so he left in the middle of the night. Now, in all of your lives, this will happen. Because normally you need a trigger. And it'll be that at some point you will sit there and think, I have all of this. Why can't I do what I want? And that trigger is normally what it takes for you to then start thinking about, you know, what it is that I am. What is it that I am? And that is typically the start of religion. So when something happens, think of those three things. It's happened because of your karma. The way you act and react is the karma you're binding. And that karma is going to be your destiny. So you are in charge of your own destiny. Jainism, sorry, there is no God. Krishna and Shiva and others are devtas. And that's what we believe, they're devtas. They're people who have reached high heavens. And And you know, the reason is that if you read every Jain story, it's really the same. They come, they become sadhus, they, you know, get liberated, and these guys fought wars. They, you know, both of them. If you look at Ram and Krishna, they fought wars. That what they are teaching, if you think about it from a philosophical point of view, is how to be a good person. What we're teaching is how to be liberated. So,
Therefore,
yes,
which makes me think, why are we saying Ma with the God?
because it's the example we have in front of us that it was,
So you're saying there's no God in
he's not God, he is a man.
Bhagwan means God?
Bhagwan is a title given to, I mean, you know, Rajneesh was called Bhagwan.
Yeah.
Bhagwan is a title that you give to somebody. When we look at sadhus, what do we say? Guru Bhagwan. Well, Bhagwan is not a god title, it's a title of a high person. Yes,
Last question, I was worried because it says that if you travel east, you build a karma,
Hmm.
right? I think because in olden days, they were traveling on the road, they were walking barefoot and not killing the ants or anything. But now you fly. So.
Not everybody flies. If you're a sadhu, you still walk on the road with a woolen brush to wipe things away as you
Yeah.
walk. Yeah,
So we
that's,
shouldn't travel.
you see, everything you do has a cost. And that cost is a real cost. I mean, if you think about a plane, then there are two things in the plane. You know, you think about the simple things. To put fuel in that plane, you've had to dig into the earth. That costs lives. As the plane is flying, lots of bacteria and things, you know, that costs lives. So there's a cost. Okay. The more you do it, the bigger the cost. So the idea is to try and live within a limit. Right? So it shouldn't be weekends free, let's catch a plane to.
No.
But if you do it within a limit, what happens is that you set a boundary, and then at some point you start thinking about shrinking. Or for a short time you shrink it. The idea becomes that your mind, you see, what controls you? Do you control your mind or does your mind control you? That is the thing. If you can set a limit, then you get into discipline. If you become a sadhu, what they teach you for 12 years is discipline. Get up at 4, meditate, go and do, it's discipline. Vinay Vivet. That discipline will achieve everything. The problem we have is that we don't have discipline. We're lazy.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I can put this off till tomorrow. Oh, I'll sleep for a little while longer, press snooze. That's the difference. So with this, that's all it is. It's teaching you how to set discipline. Conduct, knowledge, and the faith to make it real. We've got 15 minutes. There's a question at the back. I can see a hand.
I was trying to expect it to go on a pilgrimage, right? To Brahmana.
Yep. Say that again, sorry.
James expected to go on a pilgrimage, like Brahmana,
Well, again, it depends.
night and everything, but.
No, it depends. So there is a question of which Jains, because the idea of temples is limited to one set of Jains in reality. Now, in that set of Jains, things like Palitana, Samet Shikhar, Girnar are places that are considered holy because there is a consideration that Tirthankars lived there or went there and so on. When you think about anything like that, have you ever wondered why we do it? Why do we stand in front of an idol? It's a piece of stone. I'm being crude, but it's a piece of stone, right? Why do we sit and recite this every day? We, you know, between yesterday and today, we probably didn't do half of this. Why do we do this? All of this is about building the right karma and limiting the wrong karma. Pilgrimages, going to derasars, Arti, Puja, Mangal Divo, Swadhyay, all the same. Why do we do it? Well, you know, when you think about all of you, There are two things I can't tell about any of you. A, how long you're going to live, because it depends on your Ayush karma. And B, I can't tell when you will be liberated, because I cannot see the amount of karma that you have. In this lies the biggest problem in this religion. There is no prescription to go to moksha. Right? So without a prescription, we're trying to follow a religion, but we don't know whether this is 10 minutes or 3 lifetimes. Very difficult. And then you're asked to believe in something you cannot see. You're out, but discard the thing you can see, which is your body, as temporary and aging and going to be diseased and die and so on. Okay? So the idea of any religious activity is to build the good karma to help suppress the karma that you have so that you get a glimpse of your soul. Once you have a glimpse of your soul, then life changes. Because now you've experienced reality, you've experienced God, because we consider Atma as God. So now you know what God looks like. You don't want to be this temporary body and have all these things. You want to be God. So your whole life will change towards following a path to moksha. Typically, most people after that happens become sadhus. Okay? So this is the purpose of pilgrimages, that they're another mechanism to build the right karma to get you to that point. Yes.
A technical question, is there a Jain perspective on things like AI, genetic? Because it's a part of our life that looks like it's going to be here to stay.
Well, the one that is even more worrying is beyond burgers. Beyond burgers, this
Yes.
artificial meat or meat grown in the lab or
Yes.
soya that looks like meat. Okay? And there are two things that I'd ask you all to think about. Every time we did a vow, at the end, I said either by myself or through somebody else, Karu, Karau, and if I was a sadhu, then it would be Anumodana Karu. But for us, it's not there because we'd be fighting with our families all our lives. So Karu and Karau, doing or asking others to do, in mind, speech, and body. If when that thing is in front of you and you think burger, that's the same as eating a burger. Okay? Because we have no idea. Most times we have no idea. So if it smells like it looks like it reminds you of it, and you think this could be a burger, then you've done exactly just that. When you think about the other things, it's the same thing, that what really matters is the power and the reaction that you have. That's it. You know, karma is based on 3 things. What you do decides what you find. Secondly, how much you do it, that gives you quantity. And the third is the power with which you do it. Doing something with real passion or doing something, with no passion binds different types of karma. One is tight, gives you big reaction, and the other is loose and drops off. So it's the same with this, that if you use AI, you can use it to gain knowledge. When you think about these, when these first came out, it was interesting because you think smartphone, I can use it to learn, I can use it to say my Pratikraman book, I can use it to listen to stavans, or I can gamble, I can do all these other things. Device is the same. I use it, the same thing.
Thank you.
Yes. We'll do this one and then we'll.
So I think, I guess a lot of what you've talked about is we're trying to limit the violence that we do.
Yes.
All of that violence is directed towards other bodies. We're not, because we can't be violent towards someone else's soul.
I'll come on to that. Carry on.
So why does that matter? Because our bodies are I thought the bodies don't matter, it's only about the soul. So the question is why does violence matter in general?
Okay. So to understand that, you have to understand how we bind karma. And karma is bound equally through mind, speech, and body. Right? So what you say and what you think, and what you think and what you do, there's no difference. They're equal. So when you direct violence at somebody, if you, for example, start shouting at me, I could either become really offended, or I could say, he's just having an off day. You know, poor guy, I hope he's all right. So my effect does not depend on your violence. You can't do anything to me. I can only do it to myself. So all these people, bodies, as you call them, are just catalysts for you to do things, either mentally, physically, verbally, that is going to bind your own karma. So what you're doing is using them to harm yourself. And in harming yourself, that karma has to give you its fruits. And the fruits it gives you in this life to the next life is everything from birth, family, life, how much knowledge you have, how smooth your life runs, or everything depends on it. And all you're doing through violence is basically binding karma. So the idea of non-violence at a practical level, you don't want to harm others. But in reality, you can't harm them.
Yeah.
You can't kill me until my life karma runs out. So you can't harm me. But using me as a catalyst, you can harm yourself by doing things that you want to do. So in that scenario, being non-violent to others is a way to stop harming yourself. That's all we're trying to do. But that is quite deep. So we say to people, be nice, be compassionate, don't be violent. But that's what it is. And the body is the way that, you see, you can't touch my soul. You can't touch your own soul. You probably haven't seen it. So the body is a representation of that soul. You know, when we look at people, they're tall, short, thin, fat, beautiful, ugly, should I say. All of those are a representation of the karma they hold. And if you see a good sadhu, somebody who's been at it for a long time, you will see so much radiance and peace and whatever. That's what's inside. It comes out. And so that's what the body is. It's a representation. There was one at the back.
They said there was one
Online.
Online, yes.
Let you read it.
Okay, there's a question on Pratikraman. Why do we not ask for forgiveness to one-cell organisms, vegetables and fruit we consume, etc.? Excellent question. So in life, Jainism, although it's strict, is practical. That we can't live without these things and one-cell beings. So the way that it is organized is really simple. That if you're a sadhu, you are responsible for 1 sense, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're not a sadhu, you're a shravak, layperson, you're only responsible for things that move. Right? So things that are still, plants, trees, grass, whatever, you should try and avoid as much as you can, but it is always assumed that you will cause harm to it. If you're farming, if you're going for a walk, whatever it is. So it is the moving things that we do. If you read the same vows for sadhus, they cover all these things. Because for them, it's not possible. They don't have to grow things, they don't have to walk on these. So for them, they have to look after all of those, which is why they carry, brooms to kind of wipe things and all those other things. We have time for 2 more. Come on.
Okay.
Yes, one at the front and one in the middle.
In your last or yesterday,
Yeah.
you were talking about harming insects and things in the ground.
Yes.
I mean, as a layperson, I've got a small garden and I use my lawnmower to trim it.
Yep.
And edge trimmer to cut the long grass on the side and then water it. But while I'm watering it, some spiders come out. I don't kill the spiders or anything, I just allow them to go wherever they want to go. But there might be some organisms which I can't see,
Yes,
and I've got no way of knowing whether I'm destroying them or not. All I'm doing is doing my job in keeping my own little area or patch of earth, if you like, sort of tidy and clean in my own way.
absolutely.
But how does this help me
So
in avoiding?
it does. So what you have to think about is firstly this idea of mindfulness,
Yeah,
right? Because mindfulness and doing it negligently or carelessly are two different things.
yeah,
If you're doing it mindfully and you're doing it with the intention of not harming life. So if you see, for example, an anthill, taking a spade and, hitting it to kill the ants is very different to going around it because you don't want to harm the ants. So do it mindfully, do it to the best of your ability, and then do Pratikraman for the rest. And that's the real answer, because you're saying knowingly, unknowingly, janta, ajanta. This is unknowingly because you've been mindful.
yeah.
Okay? There was one in the middle, and then I'll come to you. Yes.
This is more a practical question. When we visit temples or terraces or even religious people, we are always asked to take shoes off.
Yes.
Now, I never understood the reason why we do that.
Mm.
I wear vegan shoes.
Mm.
I'll be grateful for a number of years ago.
Mm.
I mean, this actually happened to me. I went to a lecture, a religious person, and when I went there, it was not raining. We had shoes which were undercover, and when the lecture finished, we had to walk to the puddle to get the shoes.
Yep.
And that I went to see the sadhu over there. Oh, that was unusual. There's a guard at the door. That's the follower of where. And he said, take off your shoes, pray, and read it. I said, my socks are very wet. Said, take off your shoes. I said, okay, I'll put shoes. And went in, he didn't allow me to go in. Very wet socks. He didn't mind that. I said, how should we do that?
So let me answer that. So there is a reason for that. You see, things happen for both religious and cultural reasons. Okay? When Bhagwan Mahavir was here, he didn't say, build temples for me and put my murti like this, and these things come later. But if you think about Indian culture, the idea of feet in Indian culture is very important. That you touch people's feet, that, the ones that are higher than you, older than you, your parents, whatever. And so the idea of feet is that it is there as a mark of respect. And shoes, taking the shoes off, is basically that as a mark of respect, you're going to God's house, you take your shoes off, because it is the dirt that you have got from the outside. When you walk anywhere, it's the only part of you that touches the dirt. So it has dirt, and in the old days when you had grass and things you were walking through, it has all of that. As a mark of respect to where you're going, you take them off. And so it's now become a rule, right? You go into your house, you take your shoes off. You go into other people's house, you take your shoes off. And so that's what it is. It's that's all it is. And that is, even today, the thing you see so often that, when people go to see a guru, they go and touch their feet, regardless of, where they've been. And it's a cultural thing that has evolved.
Nothing to do with religion as such.
No, but religion always grows in a culture. I give you an example that might interest you. If you think about Islam, often talked about these days, the idea of wearing this hijab is a cultural thing from Saudi Arabia. If you go to Indonesia, Malaysia, or Turkey, all Islamic countries, you don't see them. So it's not a religious thing, it's a cultural thing that people then start to associate with religion because it happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. It's regarding violence and war. There has always been violence and war. We see it in Mahabharata and Ramayana. See wars now. See that there will be wars. Violence to stop violence, and there is violence to have peace, and then they celebrate victory on one side and they celebrate that's on the other side.
Yes.
I mean, this kind of violence there is no end to it.
No.
So we're gonna have to live with it. And
Well, if you think about this, just go back 2 steps. That the thing I said, which some of you I know found surprising, that we're 98% animals. And if you think about what happens in the animal kingdom, is, a lion goes into somebody's territory, which is marked out, and he attacks the other lion. And once he beats him, the pride and the lionesses are his, and then he kills all the cubs because they belong to the other lion. And now he's the king. Well, we have egos. And it's the same thing, that we have egos that tell us when. I mean, if you think about this war that is going on, for example, in Ukraine, I'll tell you, I think it's one man's ego. Putin wants to show that he can bring glory back to Russia. It's his ego. What will happen? If you think about only 100 years ago, in our lifetime, Britain was the biggest empire in the world ever. And if you look at it now, the empire is what? Gibraltar, Jersey, a few other islands. What happens? Ego. And yes, you're right, it'll keep going. I think they're starting
They are.
power now.
And I'll just before you go, I just want to say to Melvin, thank you so much. The last 4 days, the feedback we've got. I think the claps speak for themselves, but what I'd like to ask yourselves is, certainly through myself and the other coordinators, if you want to see and hear more of this, let's make it happen. Yeah, because I think practical understanding in life, in today's life, is so important.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good way of kind of coming together as well. So
Yes.
please reach out to us. But again, Mehul, thank you so
No,
much.
thank you so
I know
much.
you and I have had some interesting conversations. I'm sure you've had them with others as well. Let's keep that dialogue going, please.
Absolutely. And a big thank you to everybody who's joined on Zoom. Thank you for joining every day, and hope to see you in person soon.
Thank
Thank you.